It's the summer of soccer, and the world's game is here. We've got a question for you. Have you ever experienced the energy of New England Revolution Soccer live at Gillette Stadium? No? Then we've got something for you. How about making your next match a Revolution match on us? Don't just watch it. Live it. The world's game, your team. New England Revolution. Your next match on us.
Welcome back to another episode of The Goal Podcast. We are New England Soccer Journal. My name is Sam Robb. That over there is Matt Doherty. We are back for our first preseason Scholastic podcast of the 2026 fall. Super excited about it. Good time to kind of hop on the pod and just discuss what we've learned so far. I know a lot of the boys programs, like the first game, official game for them is the 16th this year. It's super, super late because of late Labor Day. But Matt, you're on the girls' side.
Yeah.
I guess we'll start with that. Who are some of the best teams, the best players, and kind of what are you expecting to happen in 2026?
Yeah, it's been fun. It's been fun learning the programs and the teams and the coaches and the players. I think my biggest takeaway is sort of like the teams that are always good will be good again this year. That's kind of the gist. Like you have kind of like your in Class A. I feel like those four Founders League schools, Porters, Loomis, Westminster, and Choate are just always good, always in the mix. I mean, I did my Choate preview today. They've made the tournament 16 straight years. Loomis has only missed once since 2000. So like Porters has been in it. You know, they've won the Founders 7 of the 9 years. So like, and Worcester Academy is the other team who's not in the Founders. But like those four teams are like always in the Class A tournament. You can kind of pencil them in. And then it's like, wow, then there's only 4 spots. And like, there's a lot of good teams, especially in Class A. So I was talking to some coaches the other day, and I've been saying this, like, there's going to be good teams that aren't going to make the postseason. That's just the nature of it. And it's kind of funny, like I said, you can just pencil in like 4 or 5 right off the bat that just seem to make it every single year.
I was actually talking to a coach yesterday about this on the boys' side, kind of this idea of like how the Founders League and the ISL stacks up. And like there are definitely some coaches that feel the Founders League is quite a bit better, but there's what's the kind of word to describe it? There's obviously a lot of ISL pedigree. You know, if you go to Eastern Mass in this kind of area, like everyone's like, oh, it's always the ISL. What is your sense of like how the Founders and the ISL compares on the girls' side? Obviously, a lot of the ISL programs are not Class A, but yeah, kind of what is your sense on that? Seems like the Class A tournament is kind of the Founders Invitational in a way.
It is, but you also, I think the ISL is still well represented. Like BB&N's another program who pretty much makes the tournament every year. They're on a nice run as well. And in the early part of this decade, they were winning it all. Shout out Graham Blackman and making the finals all the time. So like they're like the class of the ISL, I would say consistently. But then you have teams like Milton, who's always good. And then we'll get into like Class B and Dexter, but they're not Class A. So they're in the tournament every year. So I think the top of the ISL matches up, but I would say, based on my knowledge, yeah, the Founders League's just a little notch above. And a cool thing this year is like a lot of those teams are playing each other and scheduled non-conference games against each other. So that will give us another barometer of where those two leagues stack up. But I would say, yeah, if the Founders League is like a 9 out of 10, the ISL is like a 7.5 out of 10, 7 out of 10. I think it's like those blue bloods reside in the Founders, and that's just kind of how the state is right now.
Those non-conference games are quite cool because that's definitely a frustration on the boys' side of like the ISL is quite big, and a lot of those schools, you know, the bottom half of the ISL is a lot of Class C, Class B schools that just aren't great or not really invested in soccer in the same way that like a Milton Academy is, for example. And so, you know, Milton is obliged to play every single ISL team, I believe. And it can be a bit difficult to kind of compare when you get to the committee and the tournament, like how good is, you know, the Founders League team or even like a WNEPPSA, whatever it is, team compared to an ISL team that like didn't play them because they were playing all their ISL schools. So that's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, the ISL is great. And I think you even have the Brooks, like they're Class B, but both boys and girls, they're always predominantly strong. I mean, St. George's won the Class B title last year from the ISL. So, you know, I think those two leagues are definitely the top 2 in the NEPSAC. And I think one of the things the Founders League coaches have told me is sort of the depth of it. And, you know, like a Taft who hasn't made the tournament recently or an Ethel Walker who's on the rise. But like, you know, those aren't easy games, even like Hotchkiss and those aren't easy games for even the Loomises and the Choates. And like, if those teams were in another league, they might be making the tournament every year, but because they play in the Founders League, it's hard to win some games. And I think one coach told me the other day, it's like the Premier League. He compares the Founders League to the Premier League, where the top team could lose to the bottom team any given day, especially on the road. Like traveling to road games in the Founders League is really tough. And yeah, so I'm excited. I feel like those two leagues are a lot of our coverage, but there's also a lot of good teams outside of that I'm excited to see how they compare to the Founders League or the ISL when they match up in the non-conference. Like NMH is the first team that comes to mind for that, who's really good on the boys side, and their girls program's kind of on the rise right now. And they're a team who could like sneak into the back half of the Class A tournament. And they scheduled not Taft, but Choate and Miss Porters and Worcester and schools like that. So yeah, I'm excited. I can't wait for the season to go and see how it all shakes out.
Let's start just in the Founders League then. Kind of, are we expecting the same 4 teams this year as it kind of always has been? And then, within those 4 teams, who do you think is going to be really, really strong this year? Is there going to be kind of a reshuffling of that order within that 4? Or obviously Miss Porters is the defending Class A champion, but like, what do you expect to kind of happen in the Founders League? I know you obviously just did the Choate preview today.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was a little low on Choate in my rankings. I put them at 6, and kind of learning more about their team this weekend, I'm like, they're just as good as the top teams. But I think there's the 4 of them, Porters, Westminster, Loomis, and Choate, are sort of, in a tier of their own up top. And I would be very shocked if one of those 4 doesn't make the tournament. Recently, it's been Porters and Westminster. Like those have been the top 2 Founders League teams. Porters won last year. Westminster played in the final last year against them. So going into the season, I like to go kind of off the pedigree of the last few years. So I would position those 2 teams at the top with Porters number 1, even though they did lose some players and have some injuries to navigate. It's still just like an absolutely stacked roster. And, Avi does a great job pumping out new players. Like they have a really good freshman sophomore class that are expected to take a big leap this year. And then I look at Westminster, it's just like a very veteran laden team. And I like that. Like they returned 20 players from last year, which made the Class A final. And I wrote about this in my preview. They don't have like the star player. Like they had Maya Goddard last year, who's at Virginia Tech now, was an All-American. Like they don't have that type of player this year, but they have a lot of quality. Like they can go 15 deep and sort of run you off the field and wear you down. And I like those type of teams, like kind of the veteran grinder teams that'll be strong defensively. So I gave them a leg up. It's funny, like Loomis and Choate make the playoffs every year, but neither of them have made a deep run in a long time. Like Loomis has lost in the quarters 4 of the last 5 years. Choate's lost in the quarters 6 of the last 8 years. So those teams are in it every year. They're getting like 3 or 4 seeds, but they are losing first round more often than not. So I think just based on that, obviously this could be the year they finally break through. And I think that's a really cool storyline to follow, especially with Loomis, with a new coach. Choate feels like they have this, junior class that's now experienced and upperclassmen now, and that they can take that next step. So I would say going into the season, Loomis and Choate are just a tad behind Westminster and Miss Porters, but they certainly have the talent to break through, and I'm really interested to see how they do that, because they're going to be there. They're going to be in that quarterfinal game, and it's like sometimes that's soccer. Like Choate, I know, had a tough loss to Worcester Academy last year, lost 1-0. Like 3 of their last 4 quarterfinal defeats have been by 1 goal. One was in the semis in overtime. So like they're right there, and sometimes the ball can just bounce your way. And so that'll be fun to watch if those 2 teams can sort of go on a championship type run this year.
It's funny you mentioned being low on Choate. Choate lost, their best player, right? Like Maeve Malloy going to South Carolina. I think it was number 3 in your class of 2027 rankings for the girls. Is not playing for them anymore. And you're still incredibly high on them. There's actually a team in the CIAC on the girls' side, kind of in a similar area of Connecticut, that also lost their best player. And I'm still very high on them because of the depth and because of like just the waves and waves of players that they have. I was talking to another coach yesterday as well about this idea of like, what is more important in the NEPSAC? Is it depth or is it star power? And you'll see that a lot with like, the Class B teams. I'm imagining this is the same on the girls and the boys side, right? Like Brooks is a good example on the boys side. Incredible star power at the top, right? With Latu Kaira, players like that. Class B school, they're smaller. They don't have the depth. They just don't have as many kids in the school. They don't have as many recruits. It's just kind of how it is. Dexter, right? It's going to have Celia Fasoli, who was your number 1 player in the class of 2028. But how much depth do they have, right? And there's no open tournament in the girls' side, so we're never going to know like how those Class B and Class A teams compare. But I think the idea of like, how do you build your roster in the NEPSAC? Do you go for depth or do you go for, let's get, 3 Power 4 commits and just have them dominate? It's like an interesting question, as you kind of continue to cover this.
Both is probably the answer. Yeah, I think the teams with like I'm really high in Worcester Academy. They don't play in the Founders. They're a non-league or independent school, but they have like 7 Division One commits. So it's like that's star power and depth. And I think that combination, and even like their 8 through 11s are probably going to go Division One at some point. So it's like, I mean, they could realistically be number one. They might be them and Porters, I would say, are the top 2 teams in Class A. So yeah, that's interesting. Whereas Westminster's more depth and star power, and I think that's a fascinating thing to see how that plays out. I think a lot of the teams, especially in NEPSAC girls, have at least one like really high level player, and then it's like those surrounding pieces, and that does come up big, especially in like a state tournament, a Class A tournament game where you kind of need the 8 through 11s to really come through and play their role. So in talking to coaches, it's like, yeah, you have your couple star players, and then it's really how you build around them and play that connected brand of soccer that's going to work.
So you mentioned Worcester there, right? Obviously, we talked about the Founders League and the ISL, but who are some of the non-Founders, non-ISL teams? I think obviously Worcester, like you mentioned NMH just now. I'm pretty sure Phillips Andover was in your top 10 that you released this week or last week. Mm-hmm. Kind of walk me through some of those non-ISL, non-Founders teams that are going to be really strong this year.
Yeah, Austin Prep was another one who they're in the top 10, and they're independent as well right now. So those are a couple of teams. Like Austin Prep made the tournament last year, first time as a NEPSAC member in their 4 years that they made it, and bring back a really strong core, a strong senior core. So they're a team that I put in my top 10, and I think they'll challenge for a playoff spot. NMH is in the same boat. Like they have a good team, and other coaches have been talking about them too, of like look out for NMH. Their coach, I think she's in her 3rd year, and last year they kind of were on that bubble, like them, Phillips. Austin Prep ended up getting one of the last spots, but Phillips and NMH were 2 of the teams that were kind of just on the outside looking in, kind of in that 9 to 11 range. And another, I just want to throw out Thayer is going to be really good too in the ISL. So in their Class A. So it's like you're looking at like 2 or 3 really good teams with Division One players and depth and playing a tough schedule is not going to make the Class A tournament. I think that's the most fascinating thing to me, is that there's going to be good teams left out. And I think that'll make for like a tension around when the brackets are released, and sort of like those last couple of weeks of fighting for the last spot in the bubble. And I was talking to Austin Prep the other day, and they're like, oh my God, the coach was at a wedding the day before, or the night the brackets were being released, and he like shut his phone off because he was so stressed, and like he was like sweating it out, and they ended up getting in. Whereas like you look at Phillips, they were on the other side, Andover, they probably thought they were going to get in up until the last week. They were the last team left out, and it's kind of that's a fun thing about this is sort of, it's like the NCAA basketball selection show where you're right on the bubble and sweating it out with the rest of us on the week leading up.
Such a tough balance, because like this is the idea of the open tournament on the boys side and why it exists, right? It's because like there were good teams that were not making the tournament in both Class A and Class B, and now you add another 8-team field that takes presumably 6 from Class A and 2 from Class B, so you make those fields deeper. But then the issue is like, do you just kind of water down and destroy the Class A and Class B tournaments from like a pedigree perspective and like a prestigious perspective? And so I don't know. It's like, it's weird. Like, are there enough, like, it feels like there are more than 8 good teams in both classes, but there might not be more than, or there might not be like 15 good teams, right? So like I've heard complaints from boys coaches of like, yeah, like we were having good teams miss a tournament before, but now with the open, we're going to have not so great teams making tournaments. And do we want that either? So it's a really interesting balance, but it seems like the girls side, from what you're describing, is quite a bit deeper than the boys side as far as like how many like legitimately like quality teams there are that can make a run in the postseason.
I think so. Yeah. In Class A. Yeah, definitely. But I also think the open tournament, you're still going to get that bubble watch. You're still going to get teams who feel like they should have been in,
right,
that get left out. And then,
right,
they're into the Class A tournament or the Class B tournament. And it's going to go one of 2 ways. Either they're going to be motivated from not being left out, or it's going to be extremely deflating, and they might lose first round. Like I saw that happen a lot in the Super 8 when I covered baseball at the Globe. Sometimes teams use that as motivation. Sometimes it kind of just like, killed their season, truthfully. So yeah, I don't know what it's going to be like, but it's going to be fun to follow. And jealous of you. I kind of wish the girls were doing it. Hopefully they will in the near future.
Yeah. No, I think that I would be surprised if that doesn't happen. eventually. It just seems like it just is logical. It's not like there's less girls programs than boys programs. So I'm actually kind of interested to know why it's not happening right now. But
Yeah.
I still think that and you're going to have more than 8 good Class A teams. Still going to have a really interesting kind of bracket selection situation down the stretch there. Class B is probably not as deep, but still going to have some interesting controversy, I guess we could say, towards the back end. So it's always going to be exciting. It's actually interesting. I sent out a anonymous NEPSAC coaches survey for the boys, and I asked, and obviously it's anonymous, but I asked, one of the questions was like, how do you want the tournament to be decided? Do you want it to be committee based, or do you want it to be entirely formula based, like it is in hockey in the NEPSAC? And basically everybody said, so far at least, I think about 9 responses, that they wanted a committee. And so even though you have this like really stressful, like it's kind of out of your hand situation, it still feels like everyone kind of agrees, at least on the boys' side, that like a committee is still the best way to decide it. So yeah, it's going to be fun for sure down the stretch on both the boys and girls sides.
I agree with the committee. Yeah, I think that's the best path.
It's so tough though, because you will find people who just don't really believe in the ISL model because of like the kind of the strength of schedule on like the back half of the ISL. So it's interesting. It's like an evergreen kind of topic of conversation. Speaking of the ISL, we covered the founders and then the kind of the independent schools who are the ISL programs. You mentioned Thayer just then, obviously Dexter in Class B. Who else? Maybe any Class A ISL programs you're expecting big things from this year?
Milton Academy should be really good. They've made 2 straight Class A tournaments and have a new coach. Danielle Gordon is coming over from Bentley, but they have some returning talent coming back, a couple all NEPSAC players and a couple young players too who had good club seasons and are sort of ready to go. So they're actually playing Chode at the Suffield, the MAP showcase. And I think that's a cool matchup to see, kind of the ISL power in Class A against the Founders League power in Class A. So like Milton, BB&N, I put both those teams inside my top 8 in the first poll. So I think those in Class A, those are the two teams to sort of beat. BB&N's always good. They did lose a lot. Like they had our 4th and 5th best players in the class of 2026, and Addie Kayla, Hope McMillan, they both graduated. Lost some other seniors too. Like they had a lot of college commitments. So they're kind of in a transition year, but as I wrote, like transition years at BB&N are still like, they should knock on the door for the Class A tournament and still kind of the team to beat in the ISL. Like they just have that pedigree, and they got some young players too, like coming up through the system. So they might be young, but they're still BB&N. So they're always like the team to beat in the ISL. I do really like Thayer. Like I'm curious to see how they do. And I was doing my watch list, and like I have like 4 of their players in the watch list from the forward and midfield position alone. And some players who had really good club seasons, like Kate Brooks from Select was one of our breakout players, and Phoebe Catlin as well from Scorpions was another one of our ECNL Best 11 team, and one of the breakout players from her age group as well. So like those 2 players are juniors this year and kind of just add to a nice core. They have some young talent. They have some seniors who have been there and are committed to play college soccer. And they did tie Porter's last year to end the season, which I feel like is a cool result to kind of carry over to next year when you return a lot of players. And I think that was Porter's. They lost 1 game and tied 2. So they were one of the 3 teams to not lose to Porter's all year. And so they're a team to watch out for. I would say they're kind of in that bubble with NMH and Andover and Austin Prep, BB&N for sort of those last couple of spots. And it'll be interesting to see how they do against the BB&Ns and the Miltons this year when they play in the ISL.
Yeah, obviously you're mentioning the watch list and stuff. So I kind of want to just transition to players now. I mean, you're going to have like 85 or something players from the NEPSAC girls and those watch lists when they're fully coming out. So I guess to narrow it down, let's kind of like look at it through like who can win Class A Player of the Year, Class B Player of the Year, and maybe even Gatorade Player of the Year lens. I guess like when I asked you that question, let's start with Class A, right? Like who are some of like the really big candidates? I know it's still early, but when like there will be a Class A Player of the Year this year, who are like 5 names that could win it, for example?
I'll definitely do a little prediction thing before the year. The Class A or my watch list, the attacking talent is what really stands out the most. Like we have a lot of good forwards and midfielders coming back who earned all NEPSAC honors last year. I think from Class A, like there's like 10 names I could give you. Ruth Mponsa from Taft is going to UConn, and every opposing coach has said she's the best player in the league. Like, and I put her like
in the Founders League.
In the Founders
League, you mean? Yeah.
Yeah. Like everyone, I always when I've been talking to coaches, I've been asking like who from other teams impresses you, and they all just said Ruth, like every single one, first name out of their mouth. And that was interesting because I had her like 30th in our class of 2027 rankings. And based on the last couple weeks of conversation, she should probably be a little higher, just like an insane attacking player. So super creative, athletic. And a lot of people are like, watch out for Taft as well. And I think if they make a run and make the tournament, like she's obviously going to be the focal point of that. She's like a 20 goal scorer type player. So she's definitely in the running for that. I would obviously have to go with Sage Chisholm from Miss Porters, who is going to Miami, one of the best strikers in the region, and someone obviously we expect Porters to be really good. So she, like Bella Salina, won last year for Class A Player of the Year. So Sage is clearly in the mix this year. Like Lily Burfeld coming back from injury for Worcester Academy. And they also have AD Poku, who's a midfielder, going to Bowling Green, who was an all NEPSAC last year. So I wouldn't be surprised if one of those two won Class A Player of the Year. Like Lily is coming back from an ACL injury, but she was an all NEPSAC as a sophomore and one of the best players in the class. Would probably be in our top 10 if she hadn't gotten injured. Like she hasn't played in a year now. So, but she's back healthy, looks good. And so her and Addie are definitely in the running from Worcester Academy. And especially we expect them to win a lot of games. So I think those four would be my front runners right now for Class A. I'll give you a couple of like a younger name, like Liz Arcus from Loomis, who I've talked about a lot, but she had 17 goals as a freshman in the Founders League. So, that number could skyrocket even more this year. I don't know as a sophomore if she could win player. Like that's a tall task, but I would bet that she'll win Class A Player of the Year sometime over the next 3 years. She's that good and just a natural goal scorer. So those are five from Class A. Class B will be fun because let me go to I have a couple midfielders too. Let me see.
There's so many players. And it's the same problem in the CIAC on the girls' side too. It's just remarkable the level of talent, the depth in New England on the girls' side. Pretty astonishing.
I have like a huge list of all the players. So let me see if I'm missing anyone from Class A. No, I think one of those five are the favorites at the moment. Class B too, like I would say Celia is the favorite entering the year, obviously. I mean, she just won New England Conference Player of the Year on the ECNL side. So that would be kind of the logical next step of winning Class B Player of the Year. And she's probably, the most talented player in Class B. And I don't think anyone would be surprised if Dexter went undefeated and won the Class B title. So obviously if she plays a big part in that, which we expect that she will, if we had a betting line, like she would probably be the favorite at the moment. I also think Tyler Martins has a really good shot as well. I do want to talk about Lawrence Academy because they got Tyler Martins, who's number 4 in our class of 2027 rankings, committed to Princeton, plays for Stars Blue. She's been at Groton the last couple of years and transferred to Lawrence for her senior year. And I was already pretty high on Lawrence. Like they have some good players coming back. Like Jay Jones is a midfielder going to Yale. They have Yasmin Diaz, a good defender, going to Binghamton. And they took a big jump last year. So they were like 5-11 2 years ago. Went like, I want to say 11-5 last year, something like that. Made the Class B tournament. And now bring back a lot of players and then adding Martins. And they also got Laura Austin, who's a really good defender from Groton as well. So they got 2 Groton transfers. So that's a really good team. Like I put them in the hunt in our first ranking, and I'm like, they might be like top 10. It's a really good roster. So on paper, they seem like the biggest challenger to Dexter in Class B. And obviously Martins, like she has 40 career goals. She could realistically have an 18-goal, 10-assist type season. And if Lawrence is, say, the number 2 seed in Class B and wins the ISL, something like that, like I think she would be clearly in the running for Class B Player of the Year.
Last question I have for you for the girls. The first name you mentioned there was Ruth Apamsa. Is that your name? Apamsa?
Yeah.
She's from Ghana, correct? She came over from Right to Dream or Rising Stars of Africa, something like that. Right to Dream? Yeah. What, obviously on the boys' side, I've been putting together, kind of rough drafts of the preseason best 11 for the NEPSAC boys. I think like 6 of them are international. And obviously it's not a finalized team, but like a lot of international kids in NEPSAC, like that is like kind of become the thing in the NEPSAC boys' side. How prevalent is that on the girls' side?
Definitely less, yeah. But there's still some. Ethel Walker has a Right to Dream striker who I put in my watch list as well, Esther Asamoah, who's really good, has some Division 1 interest as well. So less from Africa, I would say. There's a lot of Canadians, like a lot of the programs, especially the Connecticut schools, recruit heavily from that Montreal area. So Worcester Academy has a lot of Canadians. Choate has a lot of Canadians. I think one thing I'm noticing too is a lot of the Connecticut schools can pull from New York or New Jersey. So they have that region covered as well, where they're getting some players from there. But I would say a lot of the ISL schools are like pretty Massachusetts based, maybe a few kids from outside of that. But I think it's definitely more New England heavy presence than the boys side. And I think less Europeans too is something I've gathered. Some schools have that, but I know on the boys side, there's a lot of kids from, Spain or, France, like the NMH goalie, things like that, kids like that, where I think the girls side, it's definitely more localized.
Did you know Alice Calabro's from London?
So
He's an international. Alice Calabro, the Taft winger, the Class A Boys Player of the Year, is from London. He's an international student too. I had no idea. And it just kind of goes to yeah. And it kind of just goes to show you like how prevalent the international stuff is. And it's not, I mean, a lot of it is Africa, right? Like a lot of the best players in New England prep on the boys side are from Africa. Richard Sarpong at Woodstock is from Ghana. Latu is from Malawi.
Yeah. Like Worcester has some kids,
yes,
right?
Yeah. Emmanuel Cheo from Malawi as well. But then you have like the Montreal pipeline is nuts. I mean, there's that agency called SMS Pro that sends like, feels like gazillions of players to the NEPSAC, right? Like, so I think that is interesting. But it goes to show, like, again, like, there's not actually that many international students in the NEPSAC girls side. And still, it feels like, I read your, team previews every time I read them. It's like, holy, like, smokes, there's so many good players on this team. But then, like, the CIAC girls is still loaded. The MIA girls is still loaded.
Yeah.
Like, it's incredible just how much local talent there is in New England on the girls side. I don't envy you having to make those best in New England rankings because you probably have, like, 80 players that could make it for each of the top 50s that we do.
I did ask a coach about this recently, like, why do you feel like there's so much talent on the girls' side? And the coach said that the clubs were the biggest reason that our girls' clubs here are so strong and doing so well at developing players that, this coach has been the NEPSAC for 20 years, I want to say. And like, it's gotten so much better since in the last 20 years. And the clubs were the main reason because they're getting this year-round training and development. Like they're playing in these national showcases, they're training throughout the winter and just getting that hands-on teaching. And then they come to the NEPSAC and they're ready to go. Like, you don't have to do much refinement anymore. So the prevalence of ECNL, I think, has really raised the level. And it's funny to think, like, imagine if all the girls were playing in under one umbrella, how like loaded these teams were. If you had like a New England team with the CIAC, the MIA, all the NEPSAC players, like some of the best players don't even play in the NEPSAC and it's still that loaded. And yeah, if you could form like a super team, got like an Emmy O'Donnell or Claire Greason to play in the NEPSAC, like how good these teams would be, or vice versa, where you had everyone play for their public school. It would be the MIA and CIAC would be absolutely loaded too. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of talent on the girls' side in the region, and you see that we have over 100 commits, 100 Division I commits in every class.
I think what's funny too, this is not even a NEPSAC conversation at this point, but like, it does feel like the girls' side's got a cool thing going where like the ECNL season is like kind of very like serious. Like this is where like this player is going to play when they're in college. Like, so a good example is like Molly Benson is a CFC center back. She's going to Fairfield. She plays like attacking midfielder for Mercy in the CIAC, and she scores like 30 goals a season. She scored the game-winning goal in the state title game 2 years ago. Like, I think it's cool that like they do the ECNL club season and you kind of have an idea of like who this player is at the next level. And then they go into the classic season and they're just kind of like, all right, like we have like, at least in the high school level, it's like, get this player, she's a center back, like she's our best player, like just get her up the field and like let her have fun and score goals and stuff. It's a cool situation that the girls have going on. It's definitely fun to cover.
I think it's a little less than NEPSAC because I think they stick to their positions, but I know it should. Yeah.
Sweet. Anything else?
I want to do some predictions, but I think we'll do that in a few weeks.
Yeah, we'll save it, right? Yeah. I was wanting to ask you about it, but then I was like, we should save it for the next one. Yeah.
I feel like I have a pretty good sense. I think the Class B, I'm still working out the kinks. I think like Dexter and Lawrence are the top two in the power rankings at the moment. I think 3 through 8 or even 3 through 10 is going to be a lot of jumbling. Like you have an Ethel Walker program on the rise who's the 2C last year. You have Brooks who brings back some good players like Delaney Bertos is back, but they have a first year head coach. So it's and they lost some important seniors. but they're always there, always in the mix. And in Class B, you have St. George's, who won it all last year, brings back some players. So I'm excited to see how Class B unfolds. Even like a Wilson, Northampton made the final last year, and like they've kind of been out of sight, out of mind for me. And it's like, well, maybe I should look into them a little more. Like they did make the final last year. I think
Are they still
B
Class B? Wilson, we got to Class A and boys. That's why I asked.
boys. Oh,
Yeah.
check that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's Dexter's class right now, and
Celia Frisoli's world, and we're all just living in it.
even not even her. I mean,
I think
they have so much. They have so
Yeah.
much talent beyond her too. Like they're absolutely stacked this year, and I really like they scheduled all the top Class A teams. So I did say earlier they might go undefeated, but they'll probably lose a few. But those games, like they're playing Worcester, like that's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, can't wait to see that too. Again, from the depth for a star power conversation, right? Because like Dexter's gonna have the best player in that field, at least according to our rankings. But how does the depth of Worcester kind of match up to that? Be fun to see.